welcome to another episode of Wow, You Can Cook. And today we have an amazing deal because you get not one, but two high protein veggie burgers that Dr. Gloria is going to teach you how to cook. Hi, Dr. Gloria.
Hello, dear heart. Yeah, veggie burgers are one of those things that people get intimidated because they expect it to all taste like the veggie burgers you buy already pre-made at Costco or somewhere else. Most of those have such ugly ingredients, I wouldn't feed them to my enemy. And then Steph is shaking her head. Yeah, that's what happens. And you don't realize it. You think it's, quote, healthy, but I have over 25 recipes for veggie burgers. So here's a little, Lori's there. Lori, are you going to cook?
No.
Okay. All right. That's okay. So with having 25 or more, probably, veggie burger recipes, I have a challenge for the three of you cooking today. I'm going to do an ebook on just veggie burgers. There's that many ways to make them. So I would like to challenge the three of you to take the recipes that we make today and adapt it to your own. Like Linda, certain things you're not eating, certain things that maybe Magda likes a veggie burger with bell peppers, which we don't eat because they're a nightshade, but that doesn't mean she shouldn't eat them if she can have them. So I challenge all of you, but I want you to make it nightshade free. Okay? You can adapt them on your own, but I challenge you to make a recipe after these. Get creative with something, and then I will make sure that you get a printed copy rather than a PDF of the cookbook. How's that for an incentive? Okay? Because it won't be available in print for a long time. So I'll get all three of them printed and give each of you an autographed copy and send them to you when we get done. So today's recipes are really easy, and I made them easy. I've got some that are a lot more steps. But how many of you are doing the chard or the collard or the spinach one? Are you all making that one? The first one? Okay. Magda, are you making that one? No, you're making the other one?
Nope.
You're not making either one.
I'm making the black bean one.
Okay. And Jill, which one are you making? The black bean?
Black bean.
Okay, so Linda, you're making the one with the chard or the spinach? Okay, so let's use Linda as an example since they don't take a long time to do. What you're going to do is understand that in most recipes for veggie patties, you steam or you saute the greens first. In this one, I didn't because you put it in the blender or in the food processor. So it's actually raw. You don't want to cook it a lot because it's going to cook anyway when you pan fry it, okay? I've tried it in the oven. It does not work. It needs to be pan fried in this recipe. Go ahead, Linda, just ask.
I already have a question for like
Already?
Yes. First,
okay.
for the spinach,
Okay.
how do you measure spinach? Do you put some in and push it down to get a cup, or do you just kind of? I don't know how to measure it.
Yeah, like Tracy shaking her head. Yes, you just push it down and kind of get roughly a cup. Don't get stuck on specifics with things like that. The only thing that should be specific is things like if you're baking and it says 1 level cup of flour or something, make it that way because it's proportioned for a specific reason. But when you're doing greens, for instance, or I'm doing peas and a recipe says about a half a cup, I put in what I feel like having. If I want more peas, you put more in. Okay? So yeah, smash it down and then get roughly, what are you using? Spinach or chard or?
Spinach.
Spinach? Okay. Is it baby spinach?
Yes.
Okay. So have you already put it in the blender?
No.
Okay. So what you would do in this recipe, so that those of you can make notes that are not making this recipe right now, is that you're going to put, I said 3 cups roughly. So, it depends. Remember, these patties freeze beautifully. All you do is put wax paper between them, double wrap them so they don't get freezer burned, and you've got a patty whenever you want it. You put a little bit of water in a skillet or a little broth, cover it. 3 minutes, you've got a nice, tender, warmed up patty. So it's like warming a hamburger patty again. So you don't have to worry about if you end up with extras. Did you have a question, Magda?
No.
No? Okay. So what you're going to do is, first of all, you're going to go ahead and in a blender. Are you using a food processor or a blender?
Food processor.
Okay. So go ahead and put the spinach, celery, rosemary, and parsley. So I'll give the equivalents right now. So it's roughly 3 cups of the green. So she's using spinach, 2 stalks of celery. And whenever you use celery, don't throw the greens away. They're just as good and very nutritious. Use the leaves of the celery. Don't throw them away. They're not bitter. It's only if it's real old celery that they would be bitter. Then you're going to put in let's see, I think I had rosemary and parsley. Yes, you're going to put in about a half a cup of fresh rosemary. Now, are you using fresh or dried?
Dried.
Dried. You don't have to come back and forth if we can hear you. So you're not
I know,
running
but when
back
my
and
food
forth.
processor's on, I'm afraid it's too much noise.
Oh, okay. And then let me ask you this then. Then the half a cup of fresh parsley,
Fresh
you're
parsley.
using. Okay,
The
so if you're
recipe-
not using,
Wait, the recipe says a third a cup of each herb.
sorry, I told you my eyes were bad today. A third of a cup. But if you're, I love it. She catches me. But if you're not using fresh rosemary, how much of the dried are you using?
A teaspoon?
I'd use a little more.
Okay.
Just put a little bit more, maybe a half a teaspoon of it, because you want the herby flavor in a veggie patty, or it's kind of blah.
I would do at least a tablespoon of dried rosemary because rosemary doesn't shrink a whole lot.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. If you like rosemary, go ahead. This is one of those things, but make a note, because if it's too much rosemary for you in the flavor, next time you know to cut it back. This is why taking notes is important. I always print my recipes and then I scribble all over them as nah, that was too much. This should have had more or whatever. Okay.
Okay,
So go ahead and
can I
use.
interrupt you really quick? Sorry. But it says a good rule of thumb for rosemary is 1 to 3. So if it says to have a third of a cup, that's 5 tablespoons. So then you would want to have 1.5 tablespoons.
Yeah. Now that's if you're going by the book. If you're going by your taste, some people don't even like a lot of rosemary. Like I don't like a lot of oregano. I like oregano in my Italian dishes, but I don't want to taste it when it's cooked. I just want that hint of that Italian taste. So use it to your taste buds. Okay, so go ahead and put your food processor on so that the noise is done over there. Oh, I think she muted us so we could do it. So while she's doing that, this is the easy way to do it. If you were doing it the other way, the long way, you would saute your greens with onions and garlic and celery before you put it into the mix. But then you have to let it cool, and it's a whole different process. So I made this one the easy, the cheating way. The other way is very good. So make a note that if you wanted to do it the other way, saute onion, garlic, celery, your greens, your parsley, and your rosemary all sauteed so that they get that little bit of brown on the garlic and on the onions. And then let it cool before you add it to your mixtures. Okay, so tell me when you're done, Linda. The only thing about this is you save the steps of sauteing, but in this recipe, you have to clean the things, the preparation out of your food processor and then use the food processor again, unless you have 2 of them like I do.
Why do you
Tracy,
have to
how
clean
many?
it?
Well, not clean it, but you got to take everything out of it.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
mean clean it, but you've got to take it out and then put the next batch in.
Oh,
Yeah,
got it.
I didn't mean wash it, but you've got to empty it, I guess is a better word to use.
That's easy.
Yeah, not soap and water. Okay, so you got it done? Okay. Now scrape that out into a big bowl, a bowl big enough that you can really mix it well. Okay. She's so funny. Did you see her, Tracy?
No. Oh, yeah.
She was making the funny sounds a minute ago. I love you guys. Okay, so then now in the same bowl of your food processor, make the veggie mix. So now you're gonna add the chickpeas, which you have drained, and the chickpeas are 1 cup of chickpeas. You've already done that?
Okay, I can't have chickpeas, so here's my first modification.
Okay, that's
I'm
good. That's
using
good.
what I can have is adzuki,
Yep.
and I soaked them overnight and I cooked them, and I'm still going to use a cup. Does that sound
That's
good?
perfect. That's
Okay.
perfect. Make a note. So she used azuki beans, but she cooked them from scratch. She didn't buy them in a can. So then you just soak them, cook them like you would any bean, and then drain them well. So she'll use
What
1
kind
cup
of
of that in her, pardon?
What kind of beans did you use?
Azuki.
Adzuki. They're
A-Z-U.
Japanese, I think.
Yeah, they are. A-Z-U-K-I. They're good.
Oh,
It's nice to try them in different patties just for a change. A-Z-U-K-I.
okay, thanks.
Sounds Japanese, doesn't it? Azuki, like kind of like Suzuki. Okay, so you're gonna put in the chickpeas, which is 1 cup. Now, didn't you ask me about avocado, Linda? Didn't you say
Yeah,
you
and
can't have avocado?
what about peas? I was trying to think of
Perfect.
something.
No, perfect. Put the
Okay.
peas in. Put the
Okay.
peas in. Do you have them
How
in a
much do you
can?
think I should use?
Okay, so
compared to
in the
half a-
avocado, we were gonna use a half. So what do you think, Tracy?
About a half
Half
a
a
cup.
cup? Yeah, about a half a cup. So make a note of that if you want to use peas and not avocado.
I was
By the
just
way, I just did
concerned
some,
that the avocado would give a little moisture, and then if I didn't do something for the avocado, they might be real dry.
Yeah.
I haven't had that problem, but use your peas. That's a good way to
You
improvise.
know what? Also, though, that the avocado has the fat and the peas will not. So you might
That's right.
do like a third of a cup and then add a couple tablespoons or at least just 1 tablespoon of fat to it, like avocado oil or something. Oh, you can't have that, huh?
No,
Olive oil, grapeseed oil.
just put a dash of olive oil.
Olive oil,
Because
yeah.
trust me, if you put too much, they're going to fall apart. The avocado prevents that.
Yeah, but
So
you
then
need
you're going to,
something to replace the fat in a half of an avocado.
okay, so then you're going to put in your onion and your garlic. And the onion, I said on here, red onion. Remember, you don't have to use a red onion. You can use a regular Spanish onion, or you can use a shallot. I've used whatever I have on hand. Shallot, remember, is a flavor of garlic and onion. So usually I like that because I love a lot of garlic. And then about 2 cloves of garlic. And again, if it's the cloves are real small, use 3 or 4. If you're Sicilian like Tracy, she probably wants 5 or 6. You use a lot of garlic, don't you, Tracy?
Yeah, you know, my favorite thing to do with garlic is make salad dressings and then put raw garlic in it.
Yeah. Yes. And I love roasted garlic with olive oil. I love the roasted garlic. Okay, then you're going to add to that, Linda. Can you hear me, Linda? Okay, then you're going to add to that your cumin. So on the cumin, it's a half a teaspoon, not tablespoon, and the equal amount of the annatto, which is the Mexican spice called achiote in Spanish. The red spice that stains everything. Be careful with your aprons and your dish towels because it stains everything.
So the recipe says a teaspoon of annatto.
Yes.
And turmeric.
1 teaspoon of ground turmeric. Then add your salt and pepper to taste. I don't like to even tell you how much, but about 1/4 of a teaspoon of pepper and about a half a teaspoon of salt. If you like it a little saltier, go for it. Because you don't have a lot of salt in everything else that you put in. And when you get that done, Linda, blend it on high until it's blended but still chunky. Don't make it like mashed potatoes. Make it kind of chunky. The chickpeas should just start getting smooth, but it's okay if they're a little chunky. Now I have people when I did the cooking classes that really wanted it smooth. They wanted it more like a, what would you say, Tracy? More like a mousse, you know, smooth and silky, not chunky. And actually in the patty, it's pretty good. But here's the problem. If it's too liquidy, they'll fall apart. So you want a little bit of chunks in the chickpeas. So when you're done with that, put your thumb up. I can see her smashing her food processor.
Well, my problem was I put the beans and the peas first, and then I had kind of chunked my onion to put it in the food processor. And so I got to kind of get that down or I'm going to have
Yeah, so get it down, and then when you get it down, you mix the two together. You put the mixture that you did with the greens and the mixture that you're doing with the chickpeas all together.
In a bowl, not the food processor.
Right, she's got the bowl out already. Yeah, in a bowl. The reason, the first time I made this recipe, I blended it too much. I put it all together to try to save time. It was awful because they wouldn't stick together no matter what I did. Excuse me. And I kept adding flour and adding flour and adding flour, and they still wouldn't stick together. You taking notes, Jill? Taking notes, okay. She's so cute with that hat on. Well, it's kind of nice, though, that Linda's doing this so that we can talk her through it and make comments, and then you can cook the other one.
Can I ask a question, please?
Absolutely.
So I had to dig out my food processor / blender out of the garage yesterday because I never use it. And but the food processor container was kind of small. You know, I couldn't fit everything in, so I had to do half. But if I would have done it in the blender, would it have come out the same? Or too fine?
No.
Would it be too fine?
Too fine. A blender will make it liquidy. The small one you're talking about is probably a 2-cupper like Tracy and I have shown. I have that size. I have a 6 and I have an 8-cupper because you need the right tool for the right job.
Okay.
And I have a magic bullet type, which really smashes things up. Yeah, that's what you grind peppercorns and all that in. So no, you can't. That's a good question. You can't experiment in a recipe like this with a food processor versus a blender because the blender will liquefy it too much.
Okay, thank you.
That's why you wouldn't put it in a Vitamix, for instance, because that's a high-speed blender. Yeah.
Right.
You had a question, Jorgen. Go ahead, hon.
Yes, if you don't have a netto powder, will you substitute that with paprika, for example?
If you don't have what?
A netto powder.
Oh, the annatto? Yes, you can substitute it, but if you're trying to avoid foods that cause inflammation, paprika is as bad as chili pepper. That's why I don't use paprika.
Do you eat nightshades, Jorgen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay, then do it.
And red pepper, I do.
Okay, well then you would be a good one to chop up some red peppers in the blender, you know, like we're doing now in the food processor. And you can put some paprika if you'd like and make it as spicy as you like. If nightshades don't bother you, the peppers will give it another nice consistency.
There's only one I don't eat. What do you call it? This purple one. What do you call this?
Eggplant.
Purple?
Oh, eggplant.
I don't eat eggplants.
But the others you can eat?
Yes.
Perfect. Then just chop up your red or green or yellow peppers. And I know Magda and her husband eat peppers. So if you want to chop them up in another, you know, to make another recipe, put them in the blender or the food, not the blender, the food processor, or chop them up real fine, and then mix that into the rest of your ingredients. Okay?
Yes, thank you.
So that would be fine. Yes, that would be great. Okay, Linda, are you ready?
I just have to
Okay.
add the flour, but are you gonna go ahead and do theirs and then we kind of cook them together?
That's a good idea.
Yeah, we could do that, but you know what? In the meantime, that's a really good question. In the meantime, I think you should add the flour now and mix it,
Okay.
because it does change the consistency. It makes it fluffier if you add it now. It's kind of like adding yeast to something. So if you go ahead and sprinkle the flour in and keep mixing it until it's well mixed, and then don't over mix it. Once it's well mixed, just let it sit in the bowl, okay? And if you want to go ahead and do that and make your patties while we're doing the other one, you can surely do that. You know,
Okay.
form them like Tracy talked last time, form them, you know, so the sides are nice, like a nice thick hamburger patty. And then just get ready to fry them at the same time the other cooks do, okay?
Okay.
So you're good to go? Okay, good. All right, so now the second recipe has the black beans, which is one of my favorites. So what you're going to have, let's see, let me start out. Are you all using mushrooms?
Yes.
Okay, both of you. All right, so the first thing you're gonna do is heat the 1 tablespoon of the oil that you're using, whether it's avocado or coconut, along with a little bit of butter, like 1 tablespoon. Maybe that's not a little bit, but to me that's a little bit because I eat so much butter. It's 1 tablespoon of butter. And the reason I do that a lot, especially with coconut oil, more than I do with avocado oil, is the butter gives it, if it's a good organic butter, it gives it the good fats, but it also gives it that depth of flavor that you don't just get from an oil, right? I mean, you don't get that richness with coconut oil or avocado oil, but you do get it from butter. So if you can not have so much butter, the way to do it is make it complementary to either the oil or the coconut butter or coconut oil, okay? So warm that up, heat it in a large skillet, kind of on a medium high. You don't want to get it smoking. And then you're going to saute the mushrooms. So again, mushrooms are hard to give you an exact amount, but I said roughly about 2.5 cups of mushrooms. You can slice them, you can chop them up, you can put them in great big pieces if you'd like. That's up to you. But remember, in a patty, anytime you make any kind of a patty, if you have big chunks, it's going to have a tendency to fall apart. You don't want it mush. You want them to have some consistency so that it helps hold it together. Just think of brick and mortar. Okay? You got to have enough mortar to hold it together. If you have too much, the bricks are going to slip. That's the same thing with a patty. Okay, so then you're going to saute the garlic. And if you're using a shallot, it would be about 1 medium to 2 medium shallots, whatever you like. It's about, I think mine was a little more than 1/2 cup. Recipe says 1/2 cup of shallot that's finely minced. And then about 2 to 3 garlic cloves. And again, that's up to your taste. But the recipe calls for 2 cloves of garlic, about 2 teaspoons. Do you have a comment, Tracy?
Nope,
No?
just following along.
So you're gonna saute that, and if I'm not, catch me. You're gonna saute it until they're soft. Most of the liquid is gone. It's about 5 to 6 minutes, depending on the size of the mushrooms, especially. Don't overcook them. Remember that mushrooms that are overcooked become rubber. They literally become rubbery. So you do not want to overcook mushrooms ever. You want them nicely browned, but not dark. Not like a dark chocolate brown. You want them a medium brown, like a cocoa. I don't know how else to tell you, but not dark brown. And then get your food processor ready. I'm afraid of having you go off and do that because the mushrooms will get too tough. So let's wait a little bit while you're doing that. Are your mushrooms pretty well on the way, Jill?
They are.
They're okay. They are? Okay. Magda, how about yours? Can we proceed, or do you want to wait a little?
No, I'm done actually.
You're
Actually,
okay?
no,
All
I
right.
have to let you know that I already did everything because of the food processor issue. I didn't know how to use
Oh,
it.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah, so
Okay, that's
I have
okay.
my patties ready.
Okay, you have them ready to fry?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So now, while they're cooking, just make sure you don't overcook them. The
No, I'm not
mushrooms,
cooking them
remember?
yet. I'll wait.
Okay. Okay. So, well,
Dr.
no,
Gloria?
but you need the, yeah?
I have a question.
Yes.
You know, the
Yes,
title
ma'am.
says they're black bean avocado, but
Yeah.
I did
Yeah.
not find avocado as
In
an
the recipe.
ingredient in the recipe. Did
Yeah.
I miss it?
I didn't see it
No, I
either.
probably missed it. You didn't see it either?
No.
Good catch.
That's why we're part of
Yeah.
the team. We make her look
Good
good like she
catch.
does us.
Okay, she wants another extra bonus of some kind. I'll have to figure out what to give her for proofreading. You can put
Just
the
keep
avocado
sending me
in or leave it
recipes.
out. Yeah, I did it because I wanted more protein. I wanted these to be absolutely protein packed. And of course, avocado does that, okay? So if you don't have it, it's okay.
I have it.
Some people
I
right now,
have it.
some people, then go ahead and put it in.
How much?
Some
A
people
whole
right now,
avocado?
no, hold on a minute. No, about a half,
Okay.
just like for the other recipe, same thing.
Half a cup.
The
or
other
half a
recipe
cup?
had a half of an avocado. Remember, you want the stickiness. You want that to be the glue, the mortar that holds the patty together. So while the mushrooms are sauteing, you want to take your food processor, and Magda's already done it. So basically, I'm just guiding Jill right now. And you're going to add the drained black beans, if that's what you're using. Remember, Linda used a different bean, Azuki. Doesn't matter. Take your beans. I've also at times didn't have black beans. I thought I had bought them and I didn't in the can, organic. And so I used pinto beans and they were really good. But I prefer the black beans. It's more of a Cuban type patty than, if you use pinto beans or black eyed peas, they don't taste like the Cuban. And I like the Cuban flavor. That's why we've got the spices in here. This is basically a Cuban burger. So you're going to put in the food processor, you're going to add the can of black beans, hopefully gluten-free oats. And the oats are, now I'll tell you what you can substitute for oats in a minute if you don't eat oats or prefer not to. The oats are about 3/4 of a cup of gluten-free oats. If you don't want to use oats, you can use gluten-free flour. You can use chickpea flour, which is delicious. It makes them a little yellow and it's kind of a nice color. So if you don't eat any of those others, try chickpea flour. I love that. I've been using more of it in recipes.
How much?
So then you're going to add.
If you use flour, how much? Yeah.
If you're using flour, you would probably use about 3/4 of a cup.
So the same as the oats.
Same as, yes, and same as the first recipe. Remember, what you're doing is just substituting a flour for another flour or the oats for a flour. So the quantity is about the same. Now, depending on your food processor, I don't know, Tracy, if you run across this, but I've had trouble with recipes like this when I use the gluten. You don't use oats, but if I use the gluten-free oats and I don't first put them in my food processor to make more of a flour, then the patties fall apart because you've got big chunks of oats. That's what I'm saying is you can't have big chunks. Even if Jorgen is using red and bell peppers or something, you have to make sure they're very small or you put them into a food processor. So that's just a hint. So then you're going to add to that your nuts. Now the nuts are
1/2 cup pecans or walnuts.
so whatever nuts you want. The other nuts that I love in this is, but they're very expensive right now, is the pine nuts. Pine nuts give it a nice, barely a little bit of sweet flavor, but a delicious smoothness to them. So pine nuts are delicious. You can put that down as an option. So you add that. Then you're going to add your annatto and your cumin. So the annatto is, I gotta find it again.
Half a teaspoon
The
of
cumin-
annatto
Thank you.
and 1.5 teaspoons
And
of
one of cumin. I could see that, but I couldn't see the other page, Tracy. So then I'm trying to think if there's anything we're missing. That's why I'm looking at this really strong, because I'm having a hard time.
The Worcestershire.
Yeah, the homemade Worcestershire, if you made mine and you still have some in the refrigerator, I promised you if you made a jar of it that we'd have other recipes for it. This is a good use. Or you can use Bragg's amino acids. And in this case, you know how I always say, don't use coconut aminos because it has a little sweet flavor. Believe it or not, in these patties, that little bit of sweet flavor is good. So if you have coconut aminos, you can use that. So tahini, Bragg's amino acids, coconut aminos, or my homemade Worcestershire sauce. Any of that works. And so what you're going to do with that, remember, is just 1 tablespoon. You're just doing enough to give it flavor. Now keep in mind that it's salty. If you're using an amino acid or like a soy sauce or a tahini, it's salty. So don't go crazy on your salting because it's going to be too much. So then you're going to put in black pepper to your taste. And again, if you're grinding it yourself, it's a little different. But I put a lot of black pepper in mine. So probably 1 to 1.5 teaspoons of black pepper. If you like more pepper, go ahead and put more in. And then use a little bit of salt. If you're using a salty sauce like soy sauce or tahini or aminos, I wouldn't put any salt in right now. I would wait until the end of everything being mixed and then taste it before you cook them. Don't just automatically add salt. And then blend all that in a food processor.
I didn't add salt. It was good like that.
You didn't?
No.
Okay. It was good that way. See, that's why you should taste it.
Mm-hmm.
And so then your mushrooms should be done and cooling a little bit. You don't want to blend this. You want to pulse it. And do all of you know the difference? Because I learned the hard way. Yeah, Tracy, tell us the difference.
So blending is when you just turn it on and leave it on. Pulsing is when you
Right.
just push it, let release, push, release, push, release.
And what's the difference in the way it blends?
The first one, you're going to get it more creamy. The next one, you're going to get it more chunky.
Absolutely. So that's the difference between pulse and then just blending it. Blending it, just think of it as a blender versus a food processor. Okay. So be careful with that. You don't want a runny consistency because you're not going to be able to make the patties. So then once you do all that, you're going to add your mushrooms. And you're going to shape your patties. So the beans, in this case, along with whatever else you used as a flour or a binder as your mortar, as we were saying, is what's going to give that consistency so the patties stay together. So if you're making your patties and they're not staying together, tell us so we can help you resolve what you need to do, depending on what you used, oats or a flour alternative. Or if you used regular flour. I mean, if you don't have a problem with gluten, I believe everybody has a problem with gluten, and that's my personal, Tracy too. I mean, she knows what happens when she eats gluten. People don't realize that gluten in the United States, I'm not talking about other countries, is literally like putting, adding fuel to the fire of inflammation. When I go to Europe, especially when I'm in Italy or France, I can eat bread, never have to worry about gluten, and never have a problem. Why? Because they're not allowed to add the garbage to their flour that we are in the United States. So, I mean, I just go hog wild with croissants and sourdough and baguettes and whatever when I go because I don't get sick. But if I come back and try to do that here, forget it. Every ounce of fibromyalgia type pain, knuckles swollen, hands swollen comes back. Otherwise, I don't have that issue. Jorgen, go ahead, hon.
So do you say it's not the gluten that's the problem, but substitutes?
Well,
No, what I'm saying is it's a way what they add to the bread and the way the wheat is grown. They can put a lot of things in the wheat crops here that you can't do in Europe.
And
That's
it's
what it is.
genetically modified, and Europe doesn't allow that. And
That's right. That's a good point. Yes.
so another problem is gluten increases zonulin in your body for everyone.
Yep.
And zonulin is
Yes.
a way for the junctions, the tight junctions in your gut to open up. And then undigested
Yes.
food particles leak out into your system, and your immune system's like, oh, foreign invader, and goes and attacks that. And so
And
then
you get leaky gut.
you have leaky gut, you create inflammation. And when I got tested for gluten sensitivity, it was probably in about 2010, and I did not have any symptoms. And I was just doing it so I could teach my clients about the procedure, and, you know, because it's a little tricky. And my lab results came back, anything over 10 was gluten sensitive. The lab said I was 178 and recommended a permanent and strict gluten-free diet.
Right.
But
And-
I didn't
and the
have
thing
any
is that-
symptoms that I knew of.
No, she had no symptoms. But see, the patients that I work with are like, a lot of them are like Tracy. I would say half and half over 40 years. They either come to me because they've already had surgery, part of their colon removed from Crohn's disease, diverticulosis, whatever, or they have leaky gut like I got. Mine wasn't from eating gluten. Mine was from the drugs they gave me after my accident that shut my liver down, and everything else went to hell. But the point is that she's absolutely correct. If you look at the drawings, I think I showed them when we talked about the gut, you look at the little junctions, and when they open up, as Tracy said, all of that stuff that should stay in the intestinal tract to be eliminated it doesn't stay there. It leaks out, not like a hole in your gut, but like a piece of cheesecloth, goes out into the bloodstream, and the liver has to filter it. And that's what my liver couldn't do. My liver was ready to shut down because it couldn't filter the garbage coming out of the intestinal tract because I had leaky gut. I had a really bad case of leaky gut. That's why my throat closed and I could only eat a few things. So to Jorgen's point, it's not, or question, it's not the gluten itself. It's the gluten, but it's the genetically modified, as Tracy pointed out, and it's the fact that they can add all kinds of other ingredients that we're not, they're in the United States, that they're not allowed to do it. Now, I don't know about other countries. I don't know about Australia and Asia, because I don't eat bread in those countries. It's not part of their real diet. But when you go to Europe, everybody eats bread. You get bread the minute you sit down, and I've never had a problem. And I've been to Europe many, many times over 35, 40 years. So that's why. Does that answer you, Jorgen?
Yes, it's interesting, but I eat gluten-free. I wouldn't touch it with fire. And now I know if I go to the States soon, hopefully I shall not eat it there.
Hopefully soon, yes. No, don't touch it in the States. Don't even get near gluten. Don't even smell it. I have to tell you something. Are you ladies ready? And I'll tell you something about gluten. Are you ladies ready to start cooking? I want to see your patties formed if you haven't cooked them yet. Oh, look at that. That's a nice thick patty. Okay, where's Jill? You have your patties, hon? Are they staying together? Yep, they're staying together. Perfect. Magda, did you have trouble? Did they stay together okay?
Yeah, perfectly. I used
Okay, and Jill, Linda, what about you?
Yes.
Look at that. See, they stayed together, and she used Azuki beans. So remember, you can use any bean. The other thing that is really good in them, when you're using the recipe for the black beans, like I said, that's really a basic Cuban recipe. Cilantro is delicious in them. And I love cilantro. So you can chop up a bunch of cilantro in with all the other ingredients, but don't chop it up by hand and try to add it, because you're going to have big chunks of cilantro and it'll make it fall apart. So just add it when you do all the other spices, when you add your shallot and all that. Not your shallot, sorry, because you're not wanting to saute it. You want it raw in the patty. Okay, so just add it to whatever you're blending to put in your patty. Okay, so now
Oh,
go
wait,
ahead and fry
Morgan
them.
has his showing.
Yep.
That's his.
Chloe, I make mine in Saturday and have just taken one from the freezer. I bake them in the oven and take one in the
Okay.
freezer, put it in the toaster, and it's okay. It's a little bit dry,
It's
but
okay.
it's okay.
Yeah, see, so to your point, if it's a little dry, do what Tracy said. Add a little bit of olive oil or avocado oil to it before you freeze it. These are the patties that I mentioned earlier in another show, that when I traveled the world, which was every other week for many years, I used to freeze these and take them on the airplane with me because they were so good. I used Swiss chard because I had so much of it in my farm. And I always put a little bit of sweetener, a tiny bit of agave, or a little tiny bit of brown sugar. I mean, a little, like 1/8 of a teaspoon in the whole batch. And it gave it that nice sweetness, which you could also get from the coconut aminos. But at the time, I wasn't using a lot of coconut aminos. And people would say, "Oh, that smells so good. What is it?" And it was just a frozen patty that I would take on the airplane with a salad or something and eat it on the plane. So they're really good for travel because you don't have eggs, you don't have dairy in it that you're going to be worried about it spoiling. So they're wonderful for travel. And you can adapt them any way you want.
It's a very good recipe.
You like the recipe?
Absolutely.
What did you substitute? Did you use the black beans?
No, I use leaves and chickpeas.
Oh,
and
good. And you like the recipe?
I put too much leaves in, maybe spin it, I don't know, because I think therefore it's dry. But it's a very nice. I need to practice.
You need to practice. Okay. One other thing that is good in it is miso. The white mild miso is delicious in it. Just don't use too much. Use about a tablespoon. And the miso also acts as glue. So there again, you see how many possibilities. One other thing that I've done is when I get a roasted chicken, it's not veggie, but when I get a roasted chicken and you're picking the last of it off the bone, and it's not really a slice for a sandwich or something, I put it in with everything and blend it up, and then now I have more protein. Even though it's not vegetarian, I've got some chicken in there and it's really good. And I've done that with turkey too. And actually with the turkey ones, I used some of the turkey gravy that I made homemade and served them, heated up with the gravy on top, and they're delicious. So find a way to use them and get me the recipes. Yeah, it's delicious. Laura, did you have a question?
Dr. G,
Yeah.
I believe you're going to have to give
Yes.
Jorgen one of the books too.
Oh, he's already on my
Already
list.
shared,
Just for
modified.
being such a good sport and being part of our Galloping Gourmets here. He'll definitely get one, but he wants it in person. He wants it when he comes to the States. So we'll make sure you get one, Jorgen. That's a good thought, Jill. Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
tell me how they are, ladies. Cook it. Fry them in your oil and let us know, and let us all see them. There's Magda. See, they're dark because she used the beans. Have you tried them yet?
Not yet. Let me try a piece.
Okay, they're still too hot. Linda, did you try yours yet?
No,
No?
still
No.
cooking.
And how about you? Still
No,
cooking. Jill, you still cooking?
I'm just cooking them right now.
Okay. So I'll tell you, when Jorgen was asking about the gluten,
Delicious.
if you are as sensitive as Tracy is, especially when you've been tested and you know that you're that sensitive, I had a group that I took, because I used to take groups of senior citizens on tours to Europe of course, to food places, right? What else would I be doing? And we walked into a bakery and they were doing something else with gluten, not the bread they were baking. And she broke out in hives. Her hands all got swollen, and we had to get her out of there. Even if you go to a bakery, if you're that sensitive to gluten, if you go to a bakery in the US and you walk in when they're baking it, and I can tell you that HEB stores here in Texas have a fabulous bakery. But I have to be careful when I walk by. I go around the meat section instead of by the bakery because they don't have anything gluten-free, and the smell of all of that flour and the gluten will get my eyes to itch. My throat doesn't close. I don't get a headache like I used 2 years ago, but my eyes will itch. That's how much the gluten in the United States affects people. And sometimes you'll get a headache. You go by a bakery and you don't realize what's going on. I remember going into Marie Callender's in California. I loved their goods many years ago, and I got the same reaction. Didn't know that many years ago why my eyes would itch. Had no idea until later I started connecting the dots. My boys loved Marie Callender, so we'd go in and get their baked goods, take it home and eat them. Well, now I know why my eyes itch. So it's very important that you understand that gluten in the United States is different. But in Europe, it's not allowed. Tracy is very right. They don't allow any GMO stuff over there. So you don't have all of those contaminants that are going to cause inflammation in your GI tract that's going to ruin the microbiota and all the junctures in your colon. Okay, ladies.
Delicious.
France, are you going to make some patties? Yes. Okay. I saw you shaking your head a minute ago. Oh, Pat, how about you? Yep. Okay.
I have a question, two
Jeff,
questions.
are you?
What is
yes.
a good condiment
Yes.
to put on those? Like, what would you serve them with?
Well, I have to admit my addiction is homemade ranch dressing. So if I'm not using them hot with gravy, because I make a lot of homemade gravies with the chickpea flour, I use ranch dressing, my homemade ranch dressing recipe. I love it that way. You could put just honey mustard is one that Brian, my business partner, loves on it. I don't like any more sweet with it. So I like the lemony taste of and all the peppercorns in the ranch dressing.
That sounds
so that's
good.
what I would do. But think of it as a hamburger patty, because a lot of people can have a gluten-free hamburger patty. Put this on, put your mustard and mayo if that's what you like on it. Just eat it like a hamburger patty, or make it warm like I did with the gravy. And I love chickpea gravy. Yes, Jill?
So I have a light bulb moment. This is a blue dot from back in the 50s and 60s. That's always my light bulb moment.
Yes.
I still have a little bit of that tartar sauce, which you guys know I never liked.
Oh yeah.
And it's going on my wonderful looking patties.
Oh, nice.
Ah, see, she made some extra tartar sauce. Good for you. Did you use the Worcestershire sauce that you made?
Yes, I did. Because I got to use it.
And see, doesn't it? I told you I'd make you some more recipes. I told all of you I promised I'd make some if you would make the sauce. Doesn't it change the flavor than if you just did like black beans smashed up in a patty?
It does. And I like a black bean burger. So these are absolutely.
I love how she does that.
Delicious.
She's gonna be our mascot. Okay, so here's the other thing though.
I got
Remember,
that cap because of Tracy. Tracy had hers, and she said we ought to go. I'll go out and get them. So I went to Hobby Lobby, and they were like $3 with my boyfriend. He's like, "I'm buying that. Will you wear it when you serve me lunch when you cook on that show?" And I was like, "Sure."
Oh, that's funny.
You know.
Thank you.
There's one more thing I wanted
to the recipe.
One really quick before I forget, because I already forgot. So right now, remember I told you guys I'd let you know when wild Alaskan salmon was at Costco? Well, it's there now. So that means it's going to be at like most of your regular places, fresh wild Alaskan salmon. It's in season now. So just want to let you guys know.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, because I don't go to Costco here. Make a note in your recipe if you like cilantro as much as I do, that these Cuban black bean burgers, and I have other Cuban recipes too, always use a lot of cilantro, because that does give it another little different flavor, a little different twist. I make them with parsley as well if I don't have cilantro. Every week, since I don't have an organic garden right now, I buy a big bunch of cilantro and parsley. So sometimes I run out of cilantro. And parsley is good, but it's not as good as cilantro in black beans. Just remember that certain things just do better. So don't get skimpy with the cilantro. It's very, very good with it. Okay, so Jill's tasted it. Magda, have you?
Yes, it's delicious.
How is it? Delicious? What did you put on it? Anything?
No, just like
You
this.
put any sauce?
No, I can just
Okay.
eat it like
Did
this.
you have the
but
Worcestershire sauce?
yeah, that's great.
You did. Okay. And Linda, did you make the Worcestershire sauce or not?
I can't have it.
No? Okay. Okay. I didn't think you could. What is
I use the
let's see your
Bragg
finished
cilantro.
product there. Okay. So Magda, you said you didn't need any more salt, right? Did you use
Right.
Bragg's or did you use Bragg's? Okay.
No, I
See?
just used
No?
let me see. No, I didn't use anything. I just followed the recipe and that's it. No salt at all. Everything
And
was
it didn't need more
salty
salt.
enough.
Okay.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
perfect.
And there again, you're not eating like raw eggs or something. So taste it. When you get everything mixed, taste it just a little bit. And it's like, okay, it needs more salt or pepper or whatever. Sometimes I add a little more Worcestershire if the blend is too thick. But remember, if you make it mushy, it's going to fall apart. None of yours fell apart, did it?
No,
No? Did you have trouble? No? Did you have trouble with them falling apart, Magda?
No, not at all.
No? And Linda, how about you?
Nope.
Nope.
Beautiful.
Wow, that's great. And she used the Azuki. I encourage you all to try different beans. Try whatever beans you like. I've never tried it, but one of my patients did with the white beans, cannellini or what are the others? Navy,
Yeah.
the white navy beans that we made the soup out of. And she used those and said they were delicious. And but she added more herbs to it because those beans don't have as much flavor. So whatever you have, if you get at a point and you like a recipe, make a bunch of them, especially in the summer, or if you're going to be traveling. Put the wax paper between them, double wrap them and freeze them, and you've got either a warm patty that you can put something over it, like a gravy, or you've got a patty you can just eat room temperature because there's nothing in it to spoil. Okay, I hope that helps you. Does that give you some good ideas? Okay, ladies, you have a challenge, remember, to make a burger with similar ingredients, but make it different or come up with your own. I don't care. But come up with something that is really unique, that is nightshade free. And I'll put it in the ebook and then make sure that all of you 4, including Morgan, gets a printed copy. Okay?
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank
Did
you
you
so
enjoy
much,
that? Was that
everyone.
good? Okay.
Jill's going
That was
at it
great.
again.
I put the
Jill.
tartar sauce on.
It's so sophisticated.
That tartar sauce is delicious on it. Plus, I put
Now remember,
a bit of
this is a
lime
woman
juice.
that didn't want anything to do with tartar sauce. I'm sorry, what did you say?
And I put a bit of lime juice on my patty and then the tartar sauce. And oh my God, it's good. And no, I didn't
Okay,
like
I know you did. Let me give you one more hint. I haven't tried it with the black beans, but with the veggie patty with the greens, if you really like pickles like I do, chop up the pickles when you chop up the rest of the ingredients and put pickles in it. It's delicious. It doesn't matter if they're dill, if you want a savory flavor, or if you want like a bread and butter. And they're absolutely delicious. I was asking Tracy the other day if she'd ever marinated in pickle juice, and she said no. God, I marinate most things in pickle juice. So that's, that's something that we can all try. Didn't we already post that or not?
July 1st.
We posted the pickle juice July 1st. So look forward to it. It's how to marinate in pickle juice and why. Okay, so don't ever throw your pickle juice away. Okay, everybody, thank you. And don't ever hesitate to join us just because you're not cooking, because you see how much fun we have. Okay?
Bye.
Bon
Thank
appetit,
you.
Love you all. Take
everyone.
care.
Love you guys. See you next
Bye.
time.
Bye.
Thank you.
guys.
Wow.
Bye-bye.
See ya.